Did, but can I ask you, did you and Bob become girlfriend and boyfriend, or were you just?
He was my boyfriend.
He was.
Yeah, and the guys, I can remember we'd get together and they'd say, "Hey, you know, have you made out?" And he says, "Nope, she's too young and tender. She's not ready to surrender."
That's the saying they had.
That's what he would say to them, you know, because he respected me a lot, because he knew what I wanted.
That's nice.
I told him, I said someday, and I thought that I was going to marry him. I says, I want a big wedding, and he'd say, "Oh, okay, fine." You know, but we didn't. It didn't end up like that. But we had wonderful times together, beautiful times together.
That's great.
So.
So did his family ever find out about you?
He never talked about his family. Never talked about his family. I never asked him about his mother, father. I don't even know where he came from. All I knew was that he was Polish, and that my mom and dad didn't like him.
But they knew about him.
They knew about him because they caught me with him one day. My dad did. Oh, let me tell you. And this was on cutting when we did the warehousing projects. When we were going to the recreation hall, he came. He was walking me from school, walking me home. Oh, and we were just talking. Oh, let me tell you, my dad let me have it, because I was with this guy. And then he was Anglo, right?
That was a big deal for your dad, huh?
For my dad, but not for my mom. I didn't know that my dad had feelings one way or the other. You see, because his girls were never confronted with boyfriends, right? Because my sister back home, she married a Hispanic person, but then he was from there, you know. But anyway, okay, so he caught me with Bob, and so I told my mom, I says, "Mom, I don't want to lie to you. He is my boyfriend, and I want you to know that I want to see him, and I want." And she says, I know, mija, but your dad, you know how he is. You know, he wanted me to meet a Hispanic person, not an Anglo." Excuse me. Well, anyway,
so
as the story goes, I told him, I says, "I'm not going to lie to you." I said, "But I'm going to see him." Because by this time I was already out of high school. And, you know, they're still, you know, holding the reins. And I wanted to be obedient. You know, I was always very obedient to them. And I had told my mother privately, I says, "Mom, he's my boyfriend, and I'm going to see him." And of course, she understood. She understood.
Well, so you still didn't tell me what he said about Bob being Anglo. Do you remember some of his words?
Oh, okay. What did he say? He says, "No me gusta ese lagartijo." He called him a lizard.
Okay. I don't like this lizard.
Yeah. That's what he said. Exactly. And it was just because he was Anglo. And he had to have something negative to say about him. But he was a very, very nice person. And I was very much in love with him. But it didn't end up like that, because then he got to a point where he had gone to Los Angeles and he wanted me to come down there. And I said, "I can't." I says, "You know how I feel." And he says, "But I've got a beautiful ring for you over here." I says, "Nope." I says, "That's not the idea."
And when we came back to California,